Good day. Today, you will be learning about the components of special and inclusive education. These components are very important to be understood by the inclusive education teacher. We try to avoid using a special education teacher as there is a need to be all inclusive so that he or she can provide the developmentally appropriate learning environment and learning opportunities to all students with or without disability. To start, let us look at the status of special education in the Philippines according to the Leonard Cheshire Disability Philippines Foundation. All children, including those with disabilities, have a right to education. This right is included in the Philippine law in the Magna Carta for Persons with Disabilities in 1992 and in international law in the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities ratified in the Philippines in 2008. However, the Department of Education reports that only 2% of disabled children in the Philippines are currently able to access educational opportunities. Of those who do access education, dropout rates are high because of the barriers of accessibility and discrimination they face. This means that the great majority of children with disabilities in the Philippines grow up without a decent education, in spite of their potential talents and abilities. This has a lasting impact because it makes it much more difficult for people with disabilities to access employment opportunities and to live independently and achieve their potential later in life. To start addressing this issue, we should at least be familiar with some of the classifications of disabilities. COMELEC, or the Commission on Elections, identified 5 areas of disabilities, which are almost similar to the classifications of DSWD, except for the inclusion of speech by COMELEC and multiple disabilities by DSWD. Moreover, the National Council on Disability Affairs separated the area for psychosocial disabilities. The Department of Education has more classifications, which are orthopedic or physical, hearing, speech defect, visual, intellectual disability, which was formerly known as mental retardation, learning disability such as dyslexia, behavioral problem, autism, chronically ill, and cerebral palsy. The classifications of DepEd were based on the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA, of the United States, which helped formulate the policies of special education in many countries, including the Philippines. And so, upon knowing these classifications, we can have an initial idea on how we will conduct the first component of special education, that is child find. But how do we conduct child find? How do we locate the children with disabilities or the learners with special educational needs? These are the questions that we will address on the next lesson. After child find, what comes next is assessment. This is now where we identify, through proper procedures, if the child has a disability or not, and if he has, proper diagnosis will also be provided on what the child's disability is. It will be followed by placement by placing the child to the right program or environment based on his special educational needs. And then, the teacher will make his or her accommodations and some curricular modification to be inclusive in his or her teachings, such that it can help the child with disability learn as well as this child's classmates. Last component of special education is parent involvement, together with the community which are great resources to provide better learning experiences to the child with disability. As we proceed to the different components, let us differentiate first intra-individual differences and inter-individual differences. Intra-individual differences are unique patterns of strengths and weaknesses found blank the child. Instead of looking at how students compare with their peers, teachers focus on the individual's abilities and limitations. Now, what word or words do you think will complete the sentence about intra-individual differences? The word that will complete this sentence is within. I repeat, within. When teachers talk about the individuality of their students, they often refer to inter-individual differences. These differences are what distinguish each student from his or her classmates. These differences, these are differences blank pupils or students. Now, what word or words do you think will complete the sentence about inter-individual differences? The words there could be between or among. Inter-individual differences are differences between or among pupils or students. So what are some examples of intra-individual and inter-individual differences? For intra-individual differences, some examples are attention and effort, which are all within the child. We also have IQ and EQ, and verbal and mathematical abilities. We look at the things that are different within the child, the gaps or variations between two or more traits, behaviors, or characteristics. In our example, there could be a difference within the child's IQ and EQ, which could be significant on how we cater this learner. For inter-individual differences, these are obvious traits, behaviors, or characteristics between children. Examples are gender, age, ethnic background, anxiety levels, and attachment styles. These things make one child distinct from another child. Individual differences are obviously of importance to teachers because a student's IEP reflects this concern. Now, what is an IEP? An IEP, or the Individualized Education Program, is something that we provide for learners with special educational needs. So if we want to provide the IEP for a specific learner, we need to understand the things within the child, the differences within the child that could be addressed so that he or she can learn and participate better. That ends our introduction to components of special education. The next lesson would be on the first component, giving details on child find. Good day.